Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Ben Jewell. I'm University of Nebraska Extension Educator, and this is our Nebraska Extension Regional Food Systems Initiative monthly food system speaker series. Great to have you all with us today. I'm really excited for our speaker today. I'll give her an introduction here in just a second, but as we get started here, I wanted to share with everyone a flyer for upcoming Cultivating Connections Nebraska Local Food Summit coming up March 27th. Will be held in Lincoln on Innovation Campus. Great opportunity to engage with a broader array of stakeholders to brainstorm solutions to some of our pressing challenges in the food system here in the state of Nebraska. Would love to have everybody join us if you can. It will be, as I said, on Innovation Campus in Lincoln. QR code here on the flyer will get you to the registration page. I'll also put that here in the chat in just a second and share that out after the meeting. But good opportunity to learn more about what we're working on at the university with our partners and also share your insights, thoughts, opinions, and suggestions about how we kind of make some progress in solving some of our challenges on food systems and local food access. And so very fitting for our speaker today. Happy to welcome today Anna Oetting from Lincoln, City of Lincoln Mayor's Office. Anna has been leading a lot of the great work that's coming out of the City of Lincoln on the local food system plan, local food challenge, and other things going on in the City of Lincoln. And I'm really excited to have Anna with us today. Anna, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Ben. That was such a kind introduction. I'm excited to be here chatting with you guys today. I was looking at your speaker plan for the rest of the year, and it looked really exciting. So I'm very honored to have a chance to chat with all of you. As Ben mentioned, I'm the sustainability specialist with the City of Lincoln, and local food is one of the projects that I work on. And I'm excited to talk through a little bit more some of the projects that Lincoln's been doing, and kind of why we're talking about it today. So I know this group is probably very familiar with some of the projects that I might be talking through. So it's a small group too, and feel free to ask questions as we go. Um, if you'd like. So let me share my slide because that would be helpful. Um, Okie doke. Can everyone see that all right? Perfect. So usually when doing these types of, presentations and conversations, I find it really helpful to make sure we're kind of all starting on the same baseline of understanding. I think we all have different definitions of how we talk about local food, but I wanted to share Lincoln's. We identify local food in our plan as any food that's produced within 250 miles of Lincoln. So a lot of times that includes products from South Dakota, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, etc. You'll notice that Western Nebraska is a little outside of that map, but we do include everything from the state as local. And of course, a lot of people think about local products as dairy and veggies and fruit, but we also want to encourage people to think of those products as grains or artisanally made things like bread and salsas, these second types of products. So other good piece of information to know that is really guiding a lot of the projects that I'll talk about today is that Lincoln has a local food system plan. So this was adopted back in 2023, and it was adopted unanimously by our Planning Commission and City Council, Lancaster County Board, which was pretty exciting because I think that kind of gives you some insight on the support that local food has in the community and the desire to see that grow by a lot of our community leaders. All of the work in this plan is really being guided and led by our Mayor's Community Committee on Local Foods, which is a really fancy way of saying a great group of subcommittee members and committee members that are working on local food in different ways throughout the community. So Ben and Eastland on the call are on that committee. We have a lot of other great stakeholders like Food Bank of Lincoln, Bryan Health, and our two co-chairs are Tim Renna with the Holly Hamlet and Megan McGuffey with Community Crops. So they are really the ones that are boots on the ground doing this work, and we're really grateful for all the collaboration we have in these projects, which you'll kind of be seeing as I talk through some of them. So A lot of the work that our committee members are focused on and that is really guiding where we're going kind of revolve around four goals of the food plan. So just wanted to share that our first priority is increasing access to healthy food in our community. Second is making sure that we're investing in our food and farm community in Lincoln and around, and then growing food in a way that protects our natural resources, and then reducing food waste. So, pretty broad categories, but just sharing that to show you really the focus of a lot of the work that we're doing. So, probably one of the questions that you have is why is the city talking about this, right? A lot of times we see city governments getting pretty involved in our housing and our water, but not all the same focus is given to food. It is becoming more common to see city governments putting out local food plans and having urban ag directors or positions like that. But it's really exciting that Lincoln is one of the cities that is putting some focus there. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that, we recognize obviously the importance it plays in our community, but also keeping it in mind for our community growing and making sure we're staying strong and as resilient as possible. So, local food is actually one of the categories in our climate action plan. Don't know if you guys are familiar, but this is something we love to share about. We were actually the first city in Nebraska to publish a climate action plan. We're gonna start looking at doing a revision of it in the next couple of years, which is also an exciting opportunity. But really, the climate action plan comes down to a big goal of making Lincoln more resilient, right? So anytime there's extreme weather events or you know, shocks happening to our system, we want to make sure that our community members are able to bounce back from those events and also continue to thrive even when all of these things are happening. And obviously, food plays a big role in that, right? So, the climate action plan actually helps us identify some of the changes that we're going to see in Lincoln by 2050. Um, a lot of these changes revolve around heat and precipitation. So, we know that we're going to get about 5 degrees warmer. Right now, we're at about 52 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's going to increase to 57 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're also going to have more days where our heat index gets to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Right now, we have about 23 days. That's going to pretty much double to 44. And half of those days are going to be even hotter and going to reach 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're in some hot weather. We also know precipitation is going to change. Majority, we're actually going to see an increase, but what's a little concerning is when that's happening. So a lot of that precipitation event is going to happen in the spring and the winter time, and we're going to actually see less precipitation in the summertime. And then anytime a majority of time those precipitation events are happening, those happen for longer periods of time, and they're also heavier. So when we start to think about some of these changes with heat and water, you can probably start to think about what that means for the outdoors in our community. We're probably going to see increase in drought situations and flood. And I don't think I really need to explain, how this impacts our community, right? We probably all have a lot of personal experience or know of community members who have gone through some of this stuff. But we certainly start to think about what that means for how we're feeding people. So we know that supply chain disruptions are becoming more common. These are some articles that have popped up over my newsfeed in the last year, and I just wanted to share some of them that stuck out to me. World endures decade of deadly heat as 2024 caps hottest year on record. Extreme weather expected to cause food price volatility in 2025, with coffee and cocoa doubling, orange production falling due to disease and extreme weather, egg prices being sky high. Some of these are a little bit older, but um, you know, it's what we're seeing right now. You're probably thinking, "Oh my gosh, Anna, you have a really inspiring news feed." I do, so thank you for noticing. But I share most of these just to share the reality of, I think, what a lot of residents and people in our community are thinking about. or are noticing at least on the news, right? There's so many changes happening recently with SNAP or other situations where people are thinking more and more about food in their communities. So, um, certainly know that food insecurity is something a lot of our residents are thinking about or concerned about in Lincoln. When I talk about food insecurity, it's helpful for me to kind of break it down into two areas. One area a lot of people are probably really familiar with is this understanding at an individual level, right? Do individuals and households have enough nutritious food for them to access? In Lincoln, we have a food insecurity rate of about 10.7%. That's a little higher than our national rate of 10.4%. We also have 20 census tracts that are low or very low access to healthy food. And we know that almost half of our LPS school district is qualified for a free and reduced price lunch program. These numbers are mostly from 2022, 2023. So again, with a lot of the changes happening, really expecting to see all of these rates pretty much going up. On the other side of food insecurity, that's where we can kind of think of at a community level, right? Does our community as a whole have enough food now and as we continue to grow? So Lincoln's consuming about 1.6 million pounds of food per day. That's based on each of us eating about 5.5 pounds of food a day. I also, you guys are probably very aware, this is not a group I need to surprise or shock anyone, but the majority of our food is produced outside of the state, right? 90%. And the other piece to this puzzle is that the majority of our grocery stores and restaurants operate on this just-in-time delivery distribution policy, where they're really only stocking inventory of food for about 3 days. So when we think about that, and we think about if an extreme weather event happens and our power goes out, or flooding happens and some of our supply chains are cut off, right? Where is 1.6 million pounds of food coming on day 4? Just something that, we want to be aware of. Um, on the other side of things, we also know that there's this huge missed opportunity for the economic side of things, right? If the majority of our food is coming from outside of the state, that means the majority of our dollars spent on food are also leaving the state. So, Center for Rural Affairs recently put out this Nebraska Farm and Food Economy report. There's quite a few for regional areas. I don't know, Ben, if you guys have talked about it yet, but it's a great report. Would definitely recommend checking it out. Um, I think most people are probably aware of these numbers, but one of the cool findings that they showed in this report is that Lincoln residents are spending about $1.3 billion on food every year, which again, the majority of that is leaving our community. And they also found that if each resident purchased $5 of local food each week or had purchased for them, it could generate $91 million of new farm income. So, really a huge opportunity for us to be reinvesting some of that money we're already spending into our local system. The kind of last piece of this puzzle to share of some of the considerations we're thinking about is also food waste, right? So, um, nationwide, about a third of the food produced in the US is never eaten. A lot of that food waste is coming from products like eggs and dairy and fresh produce. And really, a lot of that food waste is also seen at the consumer level. So, when food is brought back to the household. In Lincoln, we know that the majority, the biggest category in our landfill is organics. Food waste makes up about 22% of that. So, certainly seeing food waste being sent to the landfill, but also knowing that we have food insecurity in our community, right? Gives us some things to think about. Um, so that's a lot of kind of the different areas we're thinking about. I wanted to share two more specific examples I'm really excited about. And then I've also got a big old long list of other projects we can talk about, but I don't want to talk for 3 hours, even though that would probably entertain me more than you guys. So, first two I wanted to talk about urban ag policy was a municipal code update that we passed back in early spring of 2025. This was really exciting where we changed our municipal code. It did a couple of things, but the two biggest takeaways that's good to know about is one, it allows individuals to grow food in empty residential lots. Previously, community gardens could happen in empty residential lots, but technically individuals couldn't. Kind of a funky gray area, so updated that. And it also allows individuals and community gardens to sell the produce that they're growing in these residential lots. So we're really hoping that this opens up some more opportunities for our residents. Whether it's at the end of the growing season, a person decides to sell their 50 pounds of tomatoes, right? And that's the one time they use it. But it also is an opportunity for individuals to maybe go into a business, etc. This is actually a picture of a resident's backyard. They've pretty much turned their whole backyard into their urban farm. They're also an individual that is a YZD background, so they're growing a lot of culturally appropriate foods for themselves and able to sell that to some consistent buyers. So it's been really cool to see this actually taking place in Lincoln. We're hoping it continues opening up opportunities for that with individuals. Or you can think about how this could expand if there's those communities that have low food access. Maybe that's due to lack of transportation or lack of a quick grocery store nearby, right? Maybe those neighbors are selling produce to each other. Um, Other example that I wanted to share was our Mayor's Local Food Challenge. This was another program that we launched last year. This one is really meant to encourage more market demand for local food. So we're really trying to encourage different institutions, whatever they may be, to source local food. We're doing this program in partnership with Robinette Farms and Lone Tree Foods. And really, it runs for 4 months of the year. And through that time, we try to encourage the organizations to place local food orders. And then at the end of the 18 weeks, we recognize them based on different levels, really just based on the number of orders that they place. So it's a opportunity to recognize places that have been sourcing local food for as long as they can remember, probably places you're maybe familiar with, like Co-op, Open Harvest, Bryan Health, Dish. They all were really great in supporting this. But also another opportunity to recognize people who are maybe doing this for the first time. We had some cool examples come out of it last year. If you're familiar with Huddle, they're a private business in downtown. They were actually sourcing local food for their cafeteria, and they also were doing employee subscription boxes or CSAs for their employees. We also had the landing with Emmanuel. It's an independent living care. They were sourcing local food in their restaurant for their clients. So it was cool to just see local food being put into some situations you might not think about. Um, and we were really excited with the outcomes of the first challenge. So we had about 21 institutions participating, and about 38 farmers were supported. We spent almost $600,000 and had 289 orders placed. We're really hoping to just keep growing this. We're planning on launching the challenge this year as well. So certainly would love if you are part of an organization that might be interested in participating, give me a shout, or if you're interested in sharing this out with your networks, we'd love to just see more people participating in this, right? We think it's a great program to obviously get institutions involved, but also the more institutions that are involved and the more employees or staff or clients that they're serving are seeing and tasting the difference with local food, it can really help spread a little bit more awareness and dollars in our community. So, really excited to continue this program. Okay, so this is a big long list of all the projects that our committee is working on. Like I said, I didn't quite want to overwhelm, but this is a lot. Our partners are doing a lot. I'll maybe just highlight a few, and if you're interested in learning more about any of these, I can expand. A couple I wanted to mention, our health department has been working really closely with the Food Bank of Lincoln, as well as some of their partner pantries and grocery stores to do some education around food recovery. So they're doing quite a few things, but they're doing a lot on educating around date labels, right? Trying to explain and prevent some food waste happening there. They're also doing a lot of education on safely organizing and storing food that's being recovered. We also have the DIY home garden initiative happening in Lincoln right now. This is a great group of individuals that are really focused on encouraging residents to grow more food in their backyard and then also donate some of that food to the food pantries in their areas. And then the last one I'll share about is our kitchen outreach one. This is actually one Ben and I are working on. When we passed the food policy, we started thinking about how can we open up some additional opportunities. So right now we're trying to look for kitchen spaces in Lincoln. And I know, Ben, this expands to more of the state for you, but we're really just trying to identify some of these spaces where individuals that don't have access to the equipment that they might need to grow their business could potentially rent. So we're also looking for um, if you have suggestions on places to reach out to, I'm sure Ben and I would love to hear them. Yeah, so the last thing I'll share is just encouraging you to check out our website. We have one that covers our local food plan and then also has more information about the Mayor's Local Food Challenge and the Urban Garden Policy. And then also that QR code will take you there, but I can pop a link in the chat. And then, of course, we also have a stakeholder list that you're welcome to join. We send out emails every once in a while, just trying to keep people up to date on what we're working on or sharing opportunities that we'd love to see shared out with networks. So I think I pretty much sped through that. I would happy to, go into more depth, but thought I'd give some time for questions if anyone has any.